Welcome everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you my process for how I made these cowboy hats. I'm hoping to make a pattern using this masking tape. I don't have any wide masking tape, so I'm laying a couple of strips on top of each other, and then I'm covering the sticky side with a couple of other strips. I'm starting out trying to figure out a way to make a strip that will help shape the crown of the hat. Here I am cutting out that piece that I just drew. I want an identical piece, so I'm cutting out another one by holding this one over and just cutting around it. I have never made a cowboy hat before, so this is all experimental, and I figured I would just turn the camera on and just let it catch everything as it happened. I really need to learn how to make a cowboy hat because I can't very well have a western town without any cowboy hats. I'm trying to visualize if I've cut it long or short enough, so I'm going to tape it in the center and see if that helps me visualize it. Okay, I definitely see that I need to shorten this because it's just way too wide. It's just too big. I've trimmed off the end some, and I've also decided to shorten that little hump that I had in the middle a little bit too. I'm taping it back together to see if that's more of the size that I'm looking for. I think that this size will really work, so I'm going to go ahead and draw out the top of the crown. I'm just going to use some of this leftover piece, and I'm going to lay the crown band on there and trace it out, but I'm trying to also keep it in more of a teardrop shape instead of just an oval. I was originally going to make this pattern out of this masking tape, but then I was going to put it onto fabric that was maybe painted with Mod Podge to feel like leather. But while I was holding the crown on top of that crown band to see how the fit was, I thought that I should tape it onto the crown band to get a pretty good idea. And that's when I started to think that maybe I will just make this hat out of masking tape. Here I'm still tweaking the shape of that band. I think that I finally have it just the right size. I'm also going to make it just be one strip that only has to be attached in the center instead of attaching the two strips together. I'm checking the fit of the top of the crown once more, and then I can think about how I'm going to attach it on the top of the crown band. I think I have figured out a way to share files with everyone, so I'm hoping that if this pattern works out, this will be the first one that I offer. I have been trying to figure out a way to do it where it will be a free download and free for me as well. So it's pretty exciting for me. I have been wanting to offer free downloads for a while. The pictures of cowboy hats that I have seen, they have either a dip or like a crease. So I folded the crown top in half to give it that crease. I'm going to attach the crown now to that crown band, and I figured the best way was just to cover it with a piece of masking tape and then cut around the edge, leaving a little bit of a lip. And since it's on a curve, then I will cut little slits into it all the way around to make it easier to just fold over the crown band. I felt like I lost the crease in the crown a little bit, so I was just reinforcing it a little bit before I attached it. I lined up the top and the bottom of the teardrop shape with the valleys of the crown band. I made sure to keep the edge of the crown top with the edge of the crown band, and then I just gently folded over the little lip to attach it. I found it helpful to hold a paintbrush on the inside to give me something to help press the tape down on. I really didn't like the way you could see all the little cut marks in the tape, and I wanted to smooth it out more. So I took little strips of masking tape and ran it very close to the edge all the way around the crown band. But I later discovered that it was just easier to run a piece of tape around the whole crown band and then using some small scissors, trim close to the edge and trim it away. I laid the hat crown on a piece of that scrap masking tape, and I'm trying to figure out the width and the shape of the brim of the hat. After making this hat, I played around with the size of the brim to give me other variations of hat styles. After I had cut out the brim, I laid the crown on top to see how it looked, but I also wanted to curl the edges a little bit to see if it would curl up like real cowboy hats do on the sides. It looked to me like it would hold its shape, and I figured it would probably hold it even better after I had painted it. Then I went ahead and cut out the inner circle of the brim. I also cut out a lot of little strips of the masking tape and stuck them to my table so that they would be ready for me to attach the crown to the brim. I lined up the edges of the crown with the brim, and then I started laying pieces of masking tape down to join them. Using tweezers and the paintbrush was very helpful here. I found it easier too if I put a piece of tape at the top and the bottom and on the two sides first before I filled in all of the other areas. And I did do 2 layers all the way around. I had thought about on the outside of the hat attaching the crown and the brim together with some tape there as well, but I didn't think that would be necessary. I also didn't want all of those tape lines showing. Once I had all of my tape pieces laid in, then I took my paintbrush and I rolled around the edge and on the walls of the inside of the crown to make sure all the tape was laid down. At this point, right before painting, I thought that I should shape the hat. To give the hat some color and to have a leather-like feel, I mixed some Mod Podge with some acrylic paint. I gave it 2 coats of paint. I also taped some more masking tape to itself and I painted it in a darker color. I'm going to use this to make a hat band. I wanted this hat to look a little roughed up, so I watered down some of the darker brown paint and made a wash and applied it in spots where I thought maybe some dust and dirt would have collected on it. I want to create a hat band, so I'm cutting a skinny strip of this brown painted tape. I softly folded it in half to find the center, and then I glued it to the center of the front of the hat. I didn't put any glue on the sides, but you may want to for your hat if you feel like it's traveling up some. I just laid the ends over each other and glued them, and then trimmed them close to the brim. I love the way this hat turned out, and I'm so glad that I have finally made a cowboy hat. I'm also glad I turned the camera on to catch the whole process as I made it. I still plan to experiment in the future making a hat with the fabric like I originally thought about doing. I had a lot of fun cutting out different sizes of brims and painting them different colors. Here's one of my favorites. This hat also has a taller crown band than the first one I made. I painted this one with 2 colors. I don't know why, but this hat makes me think of the hat that the sheriff might wear. All of these hats had kind of a personality of their own. This one here is my very favorite. On some of the hat bands, I used paint and put little dots to look like, what would you call it? Not rhinestones, but studs. Some of them I did a dark color and some I did a light color, and this one I cut out a small hole punch. I used a small hole punch and cut out a circle and painted it silver and glued it to the center of that hat. Some of them I used chalk pastels and some I used a brown paint and water wash. Don't forget to get the pattern in the description. Please let me know if you give them a try. I'd love to hear how yours turn out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.